Welcome to episode 51 of the Dynasty Refinery. I'm your host, Michael Royer. You can find me on Twitter at dynasty_dadff. And joining me today is my lovely co-host, Jared Fox. How you doing today?
Pretty good, Mike. How about yourself?
I am really excited because I can actually see your Twitter handle on our screen. It's at Dynasty Refinery. And you can hit up Jared or myself for trades or all kinds of, fun things on Twitter. Today's episode is going to be all about rookie running backs. We talked about all the rookie running backs ad nauseum, but at this point, we want to talk about what they're going to do in 2020. We're not worried about rookie drafts anymore because the NFL is right around the corner. By the time this comes out, it'll be less than 2 weeks before the NFL season, and Jared and I are both stoked for it to go, get started. Before we do that, I'd like to read a 5-star review. It's actually labeled 5 stars from Joe Sports One. He said, "This is the best Dynasty Fantasy Football podcast out there today. If you want to dominate your league, then you got to subscribe to this podcast." Thank you very much, Joe. That's a fantastic review. Guys, we're at almost
Thanks, Joe.
That is a very nice sentiment.
That is nice.
We're at 60 reviews. We're going to probably do something special here once we get to 100, and can't thank you guys more. We're at 50 episodes, 60 reviews. Keep them coming. We do appreciate those things. So today, what I want to talk about is Jared and I have been looking a lot recently about, running backs and how they start to fade out at ages 26, 27 when they get that new contract, when they're kind of changing teams. And we're looking at Joe Mixon and Alvin Kamara and Dalvin Cook. And we're talking about pivoting and making insulated trades and moving back to get to this class. We knew this class was going to be special. You got to see it firsthand of doing a year one punt to get these running backs. You and I loaded up in a couple of leagues that we're in together on this rookie running back class. And now we're excited to see what they can do. And we're just going to jump right in and talk about the expectations, talk about what the rest of the league looks like, their depth charts, and really what we expect year one. So without further ado, let's just jump in right on Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He moved up draft boards incredibly. We know that he was, when we had on Eitan Mosia, I got him mid-second round. And it was a guy that we were kind of, he could have a good year if the PPR points are in the right spot. And he obviously goes to the dream landing spot of the Chiefs. Fantasy Pros now projects him at 205 carries. And what is that? 205 carries, 925 rushing yards, 8 touchdowns. So before we get into the PPR, how do you think that, the guys at Fantasy Pros know their stuff. Are you feeling over or under 925 rushing yards for Clyde Edwards-Helaire?
I mean, that wouldn't surprise me. I think that he's going to be right around that 1,000-yard. Most of his points are obviously going to come through PPR and touchdowns. Yeah. And I do believe those stats are both probably fair or over. But yeah, right around 1,000 rushing yards, 900 is what I was thinking.
Yeah, the interesting thing here is they're also projecting him at 50 receptions, 441 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So we're looking at 1,300 combined yards, and I feel like 1,300 to 1,500 combined yards is what we're looking for. But I see it more of a split of, I see him getting more than 50 receptions, more than 400 receiving yards, but less than 900 rushing yards. I feel like the rushing work is going to be divvied out a little bit more than what we would like, Obviously, they got Darwin Thompson still there, DeAndre Washington, Darrell Williams. There's a lot of different options there where I don't feel like they're going to completely go 100% with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He is not going to be a feature back right off the bat. When it comes to running backs graded in this class, he is still one of the worst when it comes to pass protection. And if you're the Chiefs, the number one priority is keeping Patrick Mahomes upright. He's great in open space and he'll be great for first and second down work. But if it's third and long, I feel like we're going to start seeing a little bit more DeAndre Washington in there to make sure they protect Patrick Mahomes. What do you see as far as, the rest of the breakdown here? What do you expect from Clyde Edwards-Helaire year one?
Well, one thing that's nice about Andy Reid's system is he doesn't ask all that much out of his running backs, as far as pass protection. And I think that's a lot of the reason why people are so high on Clyde, not to mention that all these notes, I mean, everything we're hearing from everyone, players, coaches, name it, the owner, GM, they're all saying he's looking fantastic, which is just like getting me even more and more excited. Everybody's, seeming to praise him. There's been nothing to the contrary of all the hype. So I'm thinking we're looking at I said around between 9 and 100. Let's say 850 rushing yards. I think he has 700 receiving yards. And I think he knocks down somewhere like 70 to 80 receptions and like 14 total touchdowns combined. So I think he has a big year. And I think he does a lot of it through the air. There probably is going to be a few games, a pad in the beginning where they're going to be breaking him in and not letting him fully take the reins. But I think they plan to have him in there and going as soon as possible. DeAndre Washington, though, like I'm just going to throw it out there. DeAndre Washington is like a must grab right now, in my opinion, because if Clyde goes down, like he is the most valuable handcuff, probably second most behind Alexander Madison, in my opinion. But he's a guy like, we're talking about him, but you have to own him. Like if Clyde goes down, he's automatically putting up RB1 numbers. So I just wanted to throw his name out as well.
Well, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I feel like, and I've talked about this on multiple podcasts, I don't think if you didn't get him in your rookie draft, you're not getting him, because I do not feel like anyone is comfortable paying that 105 in a one quarterback or a late first in a super flex startup pick, where you're drafting a guy at his ceiling. Now, that being said, you can maneuver some trades here, but when it comes to startups, Clyde Edwards-Helaire is a little bit of an avoid for me, because it was 1 year of production. It was elite production in an elite offense. But I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire, the sky is the limit. I mean, he can be a guy that wins you leagues. In redraft, I'm seeing him go as high as 107, and I'm seeing him I saw in FFPC, our guy John Bauer, who we had on the show, took him at 104 in an FFPC league, Clyde Edwards-Helaire I think it's a wide range of outcomes. He has a high floor because of that PPR, but it's going to be what he does on the ground. We know Kareem Hunt, who went at 108 at his pinnacle, really got it done on the ground as well. He had those 60 receptions, but he was double-digit touchdowns and over 1,000 yards rushing. And I think, to me, Kareem Hunt's a better running back than Clyde Edwards-Helaire as far as running the football. But when it comes to receiving, those are both players that are tailor-made for that Kansas City offense.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I'm buying into all the Clyde talk right now. Like if I'm doing a startup right now, I'm taking him at 106.
Really? You would actually take him at his ceiling there. So we're talking.
Yeah. And I'm thinking that he could be a top 3 dynasty own, top 4 maybe, one of those guys is going to fall out, whether it's Lamar or whoever. Stuff always happens and you can't predict what it's going to be. Lamar could go out and get a knee injury and all of a sudden he's a 4th round pick because he's not rushing as much, but somebody's going to fall out. And I think Clyde's the next in line to go in. And I truly believe it. He was in a great situation in college. Yes. And I get that whole like 1 year of production thing is scary, but he just walked into an even better situation in KC. And I'm beating a dead horse here. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like I'm just beating a dead horse, but
right. And we've been talking about those things, but bold prediction is he is an RB1 this year. I feel like he's more of a back end than a high end RB1 when it comes to redraft. The guy that I'm more interested when it comes to redraft, the guy I'm more interested at his value in Dynasty, the guy that I've had as a 101 the entire time is Jonathan Taylor. You're looking at Fantasy Pros projecting him at the same amount of carries, 204 carries, 850 rushing yards, 6 touchdowns, 21 receptions, 174 yards. So they see him as like 1,000 total yards. Now, obviously, when you're doing projections, it's a little bit different. You and I like to get a little bit crazy with our things. But we're looking at a depth chart of it's Nyheim Hines and Marlon Mack. I think Marlon Mack's going to get some of the work, but Jonathan Taylor is going to, they've said they're going to use the hot hand. When Jonathan Taylor gets his chance, he's going to take over this backfield because this offense is made to be around a running back like that, someone that's a bruiser that's going to take care of business. And when he gets to that second level, he has that elite speed and that elite athleticism that Clyde Edwards-Helaire does not. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, it's a matter of a high floor because of that PPR. He's going to catch so many passes. Where Jonathan Taylor is, if he doesn't do it year 1, year 2, he's a candidate for, a rushing title. Yeah, I mean, I feel like year 1 could easily put up 1,200 yards, and I would not bat an eye at that because he is that good, and that is the number 1 offensive line in football. So Jonathan Taylor,
he's ready to roll.
He is.
He's ready to roll, man. He's pro ready.
Yeah. So there's not much.
Go ahead.
No,
Sorry.
you're right. You're right. That team is looking to pound the ball. They have a great defense. They have built an offensive line. And Quentin Nelson, we talk about him all the time. We talk about that O line. Jonathan Taylor is primed for a breakout early on. And in Dynasty, he might start out the first couple games in more of a 60-40 split. I feel like he's going to get more carries than Marlon Mack. And it might be an opportunity to buy. Edwards-Helaire is going to get a majority of the work. But if anybody's willing to sell on Jonathan Taylor, you got to go all in because he is a guy
Absolutely.
I am trying to pivot and move back and get insulated trades. And I own him in 8 of my 15 dynasties. I made offers for him in the other 7 today because I really believe in Jonathan Taylor that much.
Yeah, and the Colts are the best line in football. I truly believe after this year, they will be the best line in football. You're taking a monstrous running back who's ready to roll. I think my only concern with JT and dynasty value is his long term, his how long he can stay healthy for it with his run style and everything. It's kind of like Geis. He's probably not going to be as injury prone as Geis, but he has that tough run style where he's making himself more susceptible to injury. But that doesn't matter if he goes out in his first 2 years and puts up monstrous numbers because people aren't going to care about whether he's, the type of running back that's going to have longevity in the NFL or not. They're going to pay up for him. So buying him now, I feel like this is the time to get him. You're not going to get him any cheaper than you will now. And I'm going to get a little crazy with it. And I'm going to say that I'm bumping Nyheim Hines ahead of Marlon Mack in value right now. Like if I'm doing a startup, I'm taking Nyheim Hines over Mack. And I think Nyheim Hines could have a little bit of value too, because they might use him in a scat type position where they're, throwing in the ball. And Philip Rivers has to be pissed off about how things left off. And he's kind of like Matt Ryan in the sense that like he goes back and forth and we've seen him have horrible years and then the next year come back and have MVP type years. And I'm getting the real feel that Philip Rivers is going to bounce back this year. And I
got a
think
feeling
Nyheim
of that
Hines
recently too, and I can't even explain it other than I like to root for the guy and he has lots of kids. No, but I mean, I think the guy who's going to benefit the most from a Philip Rivers being a quarterback is Jack Doyle. I think Jack Doyle is going to get
absolutely.
and people are really discounting him. I've got him in our Shad Dynasty League. I got him as a throw-in, and I'm getting him everywhere as, given I've offered Dalton Keenan a 4th to get him, and things like that where he's a cheap dynasty asset. We talk about it all the time. You want those top 4 when you do a startup, or you want to move back and get some of these kind of guys. And I know you kind of mocked me when we were doing our Dynasty Refinery Listener League 1. You're like, you're going to roll in with Jack Doyle as your tight end 1. And I actually think he has a sneaky good tight end 1 season. And he's going to get the targets as long as he stays healthy. So,
I came around on him too, man. I really did. He was my top tight end target in Scott Fishbowl. I was like, man, there's nobody you're going to get late that has more potential than Jack Doyle right now. And yeah, it took me a little longer to catch on, but the more I thought about it, I was like, dude, he's primed for a year. And, Trey Burton is that handcuff. If Jack Doyle gets hurt, Trey Burton's going to put up numbers, and he's a guy you can get for literally nothing. He might even be on your waiver wire.
He is. We all wanted Trey Burton to be a thing when he left Philly, but Nyheim Hines is an interesting piece. I do think Marlon Mack goes somewhere else. He's not a starter in this league anymore. Where I've been talking to a lot of people. I've been doing a lot of Devy research, and there's about 3 to 5 running backs who have a job when they come into the league. You got to factor that Joe Mixon, Alvin Kamara, Dalvin Cook, Aaron Jones. I mean, this is going to be the most absolutely dominant running back class of free agents if these guys don't get signed. So a guy like Marlon Mack has no chance to start no matter what. He is going to be a number 2 from here on out, and maybe the Colts, he has a decent season and the Colts decide to retain him. But Marlon Mack, if you didn't sell him last year, like Jared and I were saying, and I got him, I traded him for a 1st in multiple leagues. If you didn't do it last year, now you got to sit with him because you're not getting anything.
Yeah, you were getting a 1st last year.
I think at best you pair Marlon Mack with a 3rd and you get a 2nd, but I can't see too much else there. So Marlon Mack, he's got to be a hold now. Nyheim Hines, I feel like you can buy for a pair of 3rd round picks, maybe even a pair of 4s if you still have a rookie draft, which if you do, you're doing it wrong. The next guy is really moving up my list here a little bit. Not a little bit, a lot. I said I made the offers for Jonathan Taylor. I am making offers for this guy everywhere. You've been all about him. We had him 1A, 1B in the beginning, but DeAndre Swift, it's like we said, it's Taylor Swift season. Jonathan Taylor, DeAndre Swift, these guys are going to ball out. I have been on multiple podcasts. I had Commissioner Breeze on the other day. He's from the Detroit area. Absolutely loves DeAndre Swift this year. And Fantasy Pros has him at 175 carries, 691 rushing yards, 4 touchdowns, 34 catches, and 300 yards. You could argue that DeAndre Swift is the most complete running back in this class. You could argue that DeAndre Swift is a better, more electric playmaker in the field than Clyde Edwards-Helaire with the ball in his hands as a pass catcher. And why are we discounting him? Kerryon Johnson? Kerryon Johnson's in a knee brace. And, you know, what I've been reading is it's more of a concern of his mental stability of his knee as opposed to the actual knee itself. And he hasn't been getting the work. And DeAndre Swift looks fantastic at camp. He is standing out. The offense is going to be exciting. We both love Stafford. We both love Golladay. We both love Jones. And DeAndre Swift is that last piece to the puzzle where if Matt Patricia, like I've been saying all year, he's playing for a job, that means it's DeAndre Swift time. It's not Kerryon Johnson. It is DeAndre Swift. Go buy him now because he's going to pass some of these other running backs in value.
Yeah. And they keep saying how good he's looking as a receiver. He's toasting the linebackers. I mean, he is, in my opinion, the most all-around talented running back from this class. Yes, he fell in a horrible situation, but had he gone to the Chiefs or something, he'd be like a step behind, you know, Saquon and McCaffrey for me. So putting him on the Lions and now at this situation where we're hearing that Kerryon's already dealing with his injuries again. I mean, it's you're not going to buy him. You're not going to get him anytime during the season. He's going to come in. He's going to come in hot, and you're going to miss your chance. Right now, well, probably about a month or two ago, he was at the cheapest you could have gotten him.
He was.
But
we
you
were
can
getting
still
him at
get
106, 107, 108.
I know, dude.
And we were
like
I made
Vaughn or Swift here. Like
I made a deal where I got a 21 first and DeAndre Swift for Odell Beckham, you know, because that was how far people were down on him. And we talk about this every year. And I feel like there's times where even you and I, even as analysts, sometimes forget about this. A guy goes to a certain situation and we're just like, man, I don't like that. You know, like it's the Nick Chubb theory, you know, Nick Chubb goes there and we're like, there's already a guy there. Oh, it's Detroit. Oh, it's Cleveland. But DeAndre Swift is now in an actual offense that if you own him,
I don't think there will be any. I have no problem believing that he will become a top 10 back within his first 2-3 years in the NFL, probably after this year. You know, his value is going to go up.
This is why we touted this class. This is why I've told everybody, do a year one punt in your startups, get those 2020 first because of these running backs. The other guy is J.K. Dobbins, you know, and this is a little bit trickier situation for year one. J.K. Dobbins, obviously in Baltimore, so he's going to be behind Mark Ingram. Gus Edwards is still going to get he's going to get some carries here and there. But Fantasy Pros projects J.K. Dobbins at 149 carries, 608 yards, 4 touchdowns, 16 receptions, 133 yards, and 1 touchdown. So I feel like barring injury, that is a very fair situation. But if Mark Ingram goes down, J.K. Dobbins is as sexy as you possibly get. You know, J.K. Dobbins is meant for that offense. He's in that RPO system. And I mean, the sky is the limit for him too. That's why we love this set of running backs. That's why we keep talking about pivoting, move yourself down from Joe Mixon, you know, who we've been touting as far as having a great year. If you're not going to contend, now is the time to sell those 26, 27-year-old running backs and get these 21-year-old running backs who are going to be dominant for several years.
Yeah. And here's the thing is Dobbins right now is actually more pricey than Swift in a startup. You probably get Dobbins around. You probably have to take him a round or two earlier than you take Swift.
No, it's corrected. It's corrected itself recently. They're going in the same round.
Oh, are they now?
I feel like Twitter and the DLF ADP corrects itself. You know, like they always get it. They overhype it for a little bit and then it corrects itself. And right now they're going in a similar range, you know, maybe a round, but nothing more than that, you know? So They're starting to come around on DeAndre Swift and they're starting to realize that you want that running back to have year one production. Nobody's patient anymore. J.K. Dobbins
cheaper if they don't, you know, you can get them cheaper later if they don't.
Yeah, for sure.
Here's the only thing, though, that I think separates him from a guy like Swift is the fact that he's not just battling Ingram for touches. He's battling Lamar Jackson for touches. I mean, Lamar Jackson is he's going to be probably, if they use him in the same way, almost a top 10 running back in terms of yards again this year.
They were able to have Ingram be a fringe RB1, and yeah, Lamar would have been an RB1. The interesting thing here is I think
He had a
J.K.
lot of
Dobbins.
touchdowns though.
Yes, he did. Yes, he
A
did.
lot of
And he actually had a
touchdowns.
lot of receptions, which I think J.K.
Yep.
Dobbins eats into that quite a bit here because J.K. Dobbins over 26 receptions every year in college. All four of these guys, or three out of the four, not so much Taylor, but they have those pass catching chops, and that's what separates them, and that's what makes them potential top 10 running backs in the league. The last guy here is really starting to get some hype. I am in 15 leagues, and this is the only guy out of this group I do not have a single share of. I know you have one or two, but Cam Akers is starting to look really good in camp. You know, the visor is so sexy. I don't know if you saw his visor, but you automatically get points for that. You know, you get those. I wish I would have, if I would have played football, I would have had a sweet visor, but I don't think they
You
made
couldn't
it.
in high school.
They wouldn't let you?
No, it was illegal in high school. I said the same thing. It would have looked so badass, but
Right?
you
It
had
looked
to.
like
You had to have like
Dawkins
some
made
kind
that.
of condition or something for them to
Yeah.
let you wear one. It was bullshit.
You had to fake some eye condition.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Cam Akers, they're projecting almost identical numbers to what DeAndre Swift is year one: 172 carries, 674 rushing yards, 5 touchdowns, which I feel like is on the low end, 28 receptions, 227 yards, and a touchdown. Henderson's hurt. You know, he started out camp. He's banged up a little bit. Malcolm Brown is not anything serious. He hasn't been for years. Cam Akers is someone who I think in redraft, I am targeting on the later end where he's going to get a lot of production year one, I believe. I'm really buying into the Rams offense. You know, the 12 personnel with Higbee and Everett. Van Jefferson looks good. Cooper Kupp. Everybody loves Sir Robert Woods. And I think Jared Goff, you know, I got sold a little bit. Dynasty Outhouse was on the Dynasty Dad pod with me the other day and tried to sell me on Jared Goff, you know, trying to have a bounce back here. The recipient of a good offense, the key guy here is going to be Cam Akers. I think Cam Akers is going to, you know, be able to, that offensive line is so bad, but I feel like if they get him the ball in space, he is a playmaker.
Yeah, it's going to be, that offensive line is bad. So they're going to have to get creative with him. And did you see that he was being used in like, I guess they refer to it as quarterback drills, but I'm guessing it was like a wildcat type situation.
I hate it.
Oh, come on, dude.
The wildcat.
I think they said he was actually a quarterback at one time in like high school or something like that. But he's super talented, man. I think they're going to feed him the rock. And yeah, it's tough with that offensive line. But again, he's a guy that I think is going to be really solid his rookie year. And I know that, you know, one of our friends in our chat room was asking, who am I taking in a redraft? Rojo or Cam Akers? And, you know, I had to think about it for a second. And I was like, you have to with that upside, because there's a chance that he could catch fire and that offense could get going like McVay is capable of doing. And Cam Akers could be putting up RB1 numbers every week. I don't know if he's going to consistently do it, but I could see him catching fire and doing that for at least, you know, like the second half of the year or something.
Right. Yeah. I can see that those like final 6 to 8 games, he's the guy that's going to be a nice flex play for your redraft team that, you know, you pound the running backs early and you take some of these guys high upside here towards the end. Little public service announcement here on Ronald Jones. Joey, big fan of the show. You know, in our league that we're in together, sent a trade offer. He goes, I see that you talk about Ronald Jones as a buy here, so you have to make this trade. If you guys tag what we say in shows, doesn't necessarily mean we're going to hit accept. You know, we might have a strong conviction about a guy, but I thought that was pretty funny. Ronald Jones has some upside this year. You know, he strikes at me as an RB2, and Cam Akers could easily fall into that. The guy that's really starting to move up boards, you know, and if we had a rookie draft today, you know, he would be in that range where we were talking about Keyshawn Vaughn, you know, where Keyshawn Vaughn was starting to go towards the late first. And the two guys there, that would be, you know, we're looking at Zach Moss, who is tearing it up at camp. Zach Moss, I know you were saying at a point where he kind of reminds you a little bit of Kareem Hunt because he has great balance. He doesn't have that great 40 speed. It's like 4.59. But what is happening in Buffalo right now is he is a standout as far as a receiver. They're saying he's going to get the receiving work and not Devin Singletary. And I sold all my Devin Singletary shares because I saw this as a timeshare. And I feel like we're going to see a true 60-40 type slip. This is my third podcast.
Slip.
It's my third podcast of the day. My mouth's getting tired. But no, I think we're going to see a nice even split here. And Zach Moss is a guy that is moving up my draft board.
Yeah, and I also was saying when I was really into Zach Moss, I wasn't quite as high as like, Ball Blast was or anything like
Oh yeah,
that, calling him a
he was
top
the
3 back, but
he,
I did like him in the conversation of the next tier of running backs. At one point, I was like, he could be almost like a Cam Akers type guy. He went into a situation where absolutely he's going to split the work because Singletary, he's electric. He's going to get the ball too. But if Singletary goes down, that's a high powered offense, and he is so versatile. He is so good in the pat and at
yeah.
catching the ball, and he tricks you because he doesn't look like that type of running back. He's a bigger, stockier guy. He almost looks like the guy that would run you over, but he's not. He's not quite as quick as some of these running backs, but he can catch the ball, and that tells me that if Singletary does go down, he can be used in a versatile role, and he's going to catch balls, he's going to rush, and he's also going to get that short yardage work because he does have the size. So
And
I
the
like
offense
him
has come
there.
out. They've come out and say that they want Josh Allen to run the ball less, which to me, you and I were big on Josh Allen because of that rushing floor, but they want to use these two running backs more. They feel like they're going to get Josh Allen killed. He was running out of necessity. But if Moss and Singletary get things going, the Buffalo offense is, you don't want to say high octane. And we've said that they're, trying to build a Baltimore light, but they want the running backs to be able to run the ball and the quarterback. So it's an exciting offense. I feel like Moss is a guy that you could probably still go out there and buy for a second, but as soon as a Singletary injury happens or COVID or anything like that, it's going to be a tough buy to get Zach Moss.
I'll tell you right now, if I think I'm a top 4 team or if I think I have a good chance of winning a league, Zach Moss is a guy I'm targeting and going out and getting with my second that I know is going to be a late second because I feel like that's a pretty safe place to buy him at right now.
Yeah, and
Absolutely.
you might have to do it. You might have to do a toss in there and move out like a Rex Burkhead. No, but the next guy is Antonio Gibson. Yeah, Antonio Gibson. I got in the 3rd round of all my rookie drafts, and then the news comes with Darius Geis, and now everybody thinks that Antonio Gibson is going to be a bell cow back. And when I was on Go District, literally they asked this question, and I said, absolutely not. He's had 33 carries in his career. Is he electric? Is he a playmaker? Is he a great pass catcher? Yes. But is he going to be able to be a running back after having 33 college carries at Memphis? And the answer to that is no. I do not think that Antonio Gibson has the ceiling that people are taking him. I mean, people are paying. I saw our boy Dynasty Bro Vic sold him for 221 firsts. I'm like, if you can get any 21 firsts for Antonio Gibson right now, that's the kind of player that I think is a high bust rate in comparison to the players that we've been talking about. I would sell for a first all day long. But I think Antonio Gibson, what he does have is he has a nice upside because of his pass catching ability. People are trying to compare him to Christian McCaffrey because Ron Rivera said something. Christian McCaffrey was the best running back in that, or second best running back in that
He
class.
broke Barry Sanders' record.
Yeah.
Like, come on,
and
people.
now we're comparing Antonio Gibson to him, who had 33 carries. People are saying he's the next David Johnson because David Johnson, didn't have a ton of carries. David Johnson still had 900 rushing yards, 2 years in a row. Antonio Gibson's nowhere near that. We just want somebody to be a running back in the Washington football team. I almost said the Redskins, but for that Washington football team. And to me, it's Adrian Peterson's the starter. Bryce Love's the number 2. And Antonio Gibson's a guy they're going to try to get out there in space, and they're going to try to make him sprinkle him in and get maybe 8 carries a game and 5 receptions, and that could be a nice PPR floor, but he's not going to be a standout right away.
I really think he's for that change of pace type of role like Chris Thompson was, there for. And yeah, man, it would be a breath of fresh air to see Bryce Love get some work because I still think he's talented. He had those injuries, but he is such a talented player. I still think he could be good. But I agree. I think this tells you that now Adrian Peterson is a guy you want in your redraft in the late rounds because nobody's going to get that jacked up about him. It's Adrian Peterson. He's a million years old. You're still going to get him really late.
If you're a contender, he's a toss-in. Now, you said Chris Thompson. The thing that I hear on Twitter all the time is people think Antonio Gibson is small. Dude's yoked. He's 224 pounds, over 6 foot. He is a big running back. And he's explosive. Chris Thompson had great hands. Gibson can take it to the house at any point. I saw a lot of tape of him at Memphis and just being able to make some great moves in the open field where Chris Thompson was like, it was going to be 8 to 10 yards. Like he's boring and kind of get that done. But
I just define him so much as a change of pace type of back, even
yeah,
though he has that standard bell cow type build. Like you
right.
said, he's not a bell
And
cow. He's a change of pace back.
yeah, it's a wait and see. If I have him, I'm not giving away on the low end. I mean, I would want a second and a player I like. I feel like you might be able to get a late second and Zach Moss if you have Antonio Gibson, because people are that into him right now. Any first, I'm selling, whether it's
Oh,
21
absolutely.
and whether it's 22. I got to say, guys, the 22 class doesn't seem sexy, but we never know that. But if you get a 22 first for him, I might do that. I would definitely sell him for any 21 first, because that 21 class is loaded. And, from talking to a lot of people, the 21 class might get even more because of what's going on with COVID and a lot of college football not playing. Those guys that might have gone fourth round that might have went back to school, they might not be going back to school because they want to get out and get into this draft. And it'll be an interesting situation. The last guy here is AJ Dillon. So AJ Dillon, we all saw the calves on the sideline, and those were some sexy calves. I'm not gonna lie, that dude is a beast. But the AJ Dillon situation to me, and the Jordan Love situation, which by the way, they're saying Jordan Love looks absolutely lost, at camp. It just says to me that Green Bay does not necessarily know what they're doing. They're looking at Aaron Rodgers. They're kind of pushing him out of the way. And let's look at him: 4,000 yards, 26 touchdowns, 4 interceptions last year. You can't get any more consistent than that. That is getting it done with what you have. Aaron Jones, 19 touchdowns on the ground. I mean, he over 20 total touchdowns. And AJ Dillon's, I think, is going to steal some of that work. I think Aaron Jones gets knocked down a little bit. He was RB3 last year. Now he's got to be outside that fringe RB1 range. And I think AJ Dillon's going to steal some carries because the man is a beast.
Yeah, and they're probably going to feel obligated to use him to prove that they didn't make a bad pick. You know what I mean? I mean, it would make sense.
Green
And
Bay's a troubled franchise right now, honestly, because
yeah,
I feel like they are
and
trying to do
I'm
right.
so happy because like my two least favorite football teams are Green Bay and the Cowboys. The Cowboys by a mile, and then Green Bay. But I'd like to watch them burn. I don't think that is going to give AJ Dillon all that much value. The fact that I think he's going to be used. But yeah, I just don't think he's as good of a player as some people do. I get it. He's like a specimen, but so is Alex Barnes. Remember when Alex Barnes put on a show last year at the Combine and we're like, dude, how can a guy that physically gifted, like Saquon gifted, when it comes to ability, agility, and like the numbers he was putting up with the weights, how can a guy like that not be a monster? And it happens.
Jerick McKinnon, and here's the name: Christine Michaels. Christine Michael, we always wanted to believe that because he was 99th percentile in everything. He was just a size, speed freak. But on the football field, you still got to be able to play. And Alex Barnes was jumping up draft boards. I think AJ Dillon actually has a history there at Boston College where he was a good running back. But let's not try to make him the next Derrick Henry because he's big.
Yeah, and I think Mariota, didn't he have like the highest like spark score like ever from a quarterback? Like the highest rating was like a 99 or something like that. Like he was supposed to be the perfect player. It just doesn't always work out.
Yeah. And what we want you guys to take away from this is like right now is the time where I was talking about this today. You guys have a window here. We're about to start the season here. So it's a tough buy on and making any trades right now. But in those first 4 weeks, start assessing your roster. You're starting to get an idea of, am I going to be good? Am I not? In those first 4 games. By week 8, if you're making the playoffs or not. You have a very strong idea because you only have 5 weeks until playoff time. So this is the time in like say week 8, let's say these guys that we really trust, that Jonathan Taylor or Clyde Edwards-Helaire are struggling. That's when you make the move in Dynasty where you trade Dalvin Cook to a contender for Jonathan Taylor and some picks or a player that you like, or, any of those kind of things. This is going to be a year that is unlike any other because of COVID, because of the, having to sit for 3 weeks. All of these running backs could get a real shot. And if you own them, they're going to get a serious uptick because when all of these guys get a chance, I feel like out of these 5, and they say your hit rate is 54%, but I mean, out of these 5 running backs, I see 4 out of the 5 hitting and being top 4, top 3, 4 dynasty startup round picks. And some of them, I can see 3 of them being first rounders, and this class is that good. That's why we've been touting them for as long as we've had the podcast. We've been saying buy 2020 picks. Go get them. And right now you guys are going to reap the benefits. If you guys were listening to us, you guys are going to reap the rewards of having these running backs on your team. And we've been pounding the table on saying draft rookie running backs over rookie wide receivers, because these guys, when they hit, they're going to hit big, and you're going to be able to get a ransom for them.
Yeah, 3 years from now, Lamb might be more valuable than some of these running backs because he is going to be a stud receiver. After this year, when a guy like DeAndre Swift or Jonathan Taylor blows up, you'll be able to get Lamb plus a first for him. You know what I mean? And that's the kind of value exchange that we're talking about here.
Yeah. I was absolutely thinking the same thing. And for me, it's a guy like it. For me, the one I trust the least out of that group is Cam Akers. And if Cam Akers has a good first year, I would be perfectly comfortable getting CeeDee Lamb plus and getting that extra, pick on there. And we talk about pivoting all the time and moving, when a guy's contract is getting up. We talk about it with wide receivers, trading for those 28-year-old wide receivers for the A.J. Browns and the DK Metcalfs and the DJ Chark, just for you, I said that. But we talk about making those kind of moves. We talk about that with running backs, and I'm going to say a couple names here, and I'm going to just, see what you would rather have. So let's go with Jonathan Taylor or Miles Sanders.
Jonathan Taylor, all the way.
Clyde Edwards-Helaire or Josh Jacobs?
Clyde.
That's a tough one, right?
It is.
We've been talking about Josh Jacobs, and you guys have heard it.
I love him. You did that on purpose, Mike.
I did. Watch this next one.
You were going for my balls there.
I don't usually go for the balls. I say go for the throat. Yeah, I'm not trying to go for your ball. I'm glad I'm not over there sitting on the sofa. I'm not sitting on the sofa anymore. I got my own studio. I'm good. Are you ready for this? DeAndre Swift or Austin Eckler? That one's got to tug you.
That's tough. That depends a lot on team makeup.
No. You got to pick
what
one.
I'm trying to do.
You're doing a startup right now. You got to pick one.
DeAndre Swift. I'm sticking with my guns on him. He's going to be amazing. Top 10 running back. Dude. I still think he has a ceiling to be a top 5. Seriously.
Go buy DeAndre Swift. If you don't get anything else from this show, I made an offer in Shoe Dynasty, and if you're listening, I hope you are. But I offered DK Metcalf, who I absolutely love, for DeAndre Swift in a second, because I just feel like once he gets on that football field, we're not worried that he's on the Lions. We're not worried, about draft capital. We're going to see that player that you and I both had as that 1A, 1B with Jonathan Taylor. And when those guys get their opportunity, they're going to hit, and they're going to hit big. And
how many times have we done that, Mike? How many times have we loved guys, talk the world of them? It's like Nick Chubb, and like there's just a whole list of them where we talked ourselves out of them, where we're like, we love the player, we called it, and then we let ourselves, we talked ourselves out of it. We're too smart and wise for that now as analysts, Mike.
It's the biggest thing where, since I started the Dynasty Dad Pod, I've talked about it with 5 or 6 different guests, and put your stamp on a guy and believe in him. Believe in your guy, and don't listen because, Joe down the street starts saying, well, they read something else, or an analyst that you like says something else. Listen to it, understand it, but put your stamp on a guy. And yours is DeAndre Swift, and mine is Jonathan Taylor. And we've been saying it the whole time. And I feel like maybe a little bit of wavering, and the more we do this, the more confident, obviously, we get, the better it takes. And we put in hours and hours of work for you guys, and we appreciate the listens, and we're going to continue to work hard here for you at the Dynasty Refinery.
Can I say one more thing about DeAndre Swift? Just one more thing. We got him up, man. I'm like sneaking it in.
You went on a rant for like 40 minutes. It's like, I'm going to reference a movie again, but it's like when Will Ferrell in Old School has to debate against the Raging Cajun, and he like wakes up and he's like, what just happened? I blacked out, like you just talked until you blacked out, but go for it.
Oh, I know, dude. I can speak the world, but one thing I notice about DeAndre Swift is that man, all he cares about is football. Everything he does, it says he's putting in extra workouts, and he just keeps talking about how he wants to do more. He wants to do whatever they need him to do. That man lives for football. There are some players that have lives outside of football, and that lets them get distracted. That's what I think happened with OBJ in these last couple of years.
Baker too.
Yeah, and Baker, that's a big thing. But dude, when you find a guy like Swift, who's just like, you can tell his life is football, you need to pay attention to that.
Yeah, Dan Williamson from GOAT District says that all the time. He loves players who love football, and I feel like with with Dobbins, Swift, Akers, Taylor, and Hilaire, when I watch their tape, there is some serious passion the way these guys run the football. There's some serious passion for their teams and for wanting to win. And these aren't just guys going through the motions. These are guys who are supreme athletes who love the game of football. So thank you for tuning in. You got about 2 weeks here. I got the draft board behind us, but hit up draftkits.co. You guys know I did my kid draft, on the board over here. They have the best draft boards, the most custom vinyl reusables. They got, one-time use ones with the stickers. If you guys go over there and you put in the code refinery, you'll get 10% off. Make sure you let them know that that we sent you over there. The other great partner up we have, and we're going to have to start saying this in the beginning because it's time to win, is TrophySmack.com. TrophySmack.com, where we got our championship belt for the Dynasty Refinery League. They make the best trophies. It is an amazing website. If you guys over there and you put in the code refinery, you will get a free $60 ring. You get a championship ring, and you just can't beat that.
No.
And now's the time to get that. Get that perpetual league trophy where you put your name on there. Get that championship belt. Get that way to talk smack where you walk in the room on draft day the next year with that belt in hand. And COVID's going to be gone by next year. We're going to do a lot more live drafts. Get their boards. They are fantastic. The reusable one that I got behind me is just awesome. You can get it with all 32 teams. You can get whoever you want behind. There's one player per team. I chose Patrick Mahomes, because that one's going to last for a long time. But they make the best boards. Hit them up, TrophySmack.com. Hit them up. Both of them use code refinery, and you guys will get, some instant swag there.
Get yourself that ring, man.
Championship.
No one else
ring.
is going to give you a free $60 ring. That's amazing.
Right. Like,
Good guys over there.
I'm getting pretty serious with my girl here. If I win the championship, I'm going to get it fitted to her size. Here's the championship ring from TrophySmack.com. And she does listen to the show.
I earned this for you, girl.
Right. Exactly. That is true love. Love you, Joy. All right. Thanks again, guys, for tuning in. I know we kind of rambled here at the end, but it was a lot of good times. Thanks for tuning in. Hit us up with those 5-star reviews. We totally appreciate that. Wake up, rise, and refine those dynasty rosters. Peace.